The moment the wheels touched down in Vancouver, I felt it a soft, almost imperceptible shift, like someone had turned the volume of the world down by a few notches. I stepped out of the jet bridge expecting the same airport chaos I'd left behind in Seattle, but instead found a quiet hum, a kind of gentle order. Signs glowed in both English and French, announcements floated calmly through the air, and people actually moved without colliding into one another. Even the security officers walked, not marched. It felt strangely dreamlike, as if I'd wandered onto a movie set that looked like home but didn't obey the same rules. Outside, the first real shock hit. A line of cars waited at the pickup zone, not honking, not inching forward aggressively, just waiting. When I hesitated at the curb, unsure if the car approaching would stop, the driver slowed immediately and waved me through with a small, patient smile. In the States, someone would have zipped past, maybe thrown a glance that said hurry up. Here, the world seemed to bend toward courtesy in ways my brain wasn't prepared for. As I rode into the city, everything looked familiar: glass towers, coastal fog, the glow of late afternoon, but something deeper felt off kilter. People walked with this loose, unguarded ease, hands in pockets, headphones in, like danger wasn't an instinct they carried. I caught a glimpse of a teenager leaving a backpack unattended on a cafe patio while he stepped inside. No one looked twice. No one hovered protectively over belongings. No one scanned the street. That's when the thought settled in my chest, both warm and unsettling. Canada looks like the us, but it doesn't move like the us. The atmosphere felt softer somehow, less defensive, less urgent. Even my shoulders, still tight from travel, didn't quite know what to do with that sensation. And as the city blurred past the window, I realized this wasn't just a new place. It was a new pace, one that would start unraveling my American instincts faster than I expected. Daily life in Canada didn't hit me all at once. It seeped in through the smallest, quietest moments until suddenly everything familiar felt slightly rewritten. The first morning, I stepped into a neighborhood coffee shop expecting the usual American choreography: rushed orders, tapping feet, the low-grade tension of people needing caffeine now. Instead, the place moved like a slow current. People actually waited their turn without crowding the counter. The barista wasn't performing friendliness, she was genuinely chatting with the customer ahead of me about weekend plans, and no one behind them seemed impatient. When she finally looked up and smiled at me, I almost didn't know how to respond. My reflex was to order quickly, step aside, make myself small. Here, that urgency didn't belong. The differences stacked up in unexpected places. At the grocery store, people lined up with a kind of quiet choreography: no cutting, no deep sighs, no aggressive cart maneuvers. A man accidentally bumped my shoulder and apologized not once but twice, his face sincere, as if he'd caused real harm. I found myself mumbling a flustered apology back even though I hadn't done anything. In the US, we apologize strategically. In Canada, it felt like breathing. Work was its own puzzle. My Canadian co-workers were kind but measured. In America, we bond fast: happy hours, shared complaints, inside jokes by week 2. Here, the friendliness was warm but never intrusive. People asked about my weekend but didn't pry. They offered help without making it feel transactional. And around 4:45 p.m., something bizarre happened. Everyone started shutting down. Computers off, coats on. No scramble to squeeze in 15 more minutes to impress the boss. No subtle judgment for leaving too early. Work ended when work ended, and the rest of the day actually belonged to them. That blew my mind, but the most disorienting moment came one night walking home after dinner. In the States, especially in any city, my brain flips into alert mode the moment darkness sinks in. Hands stay close to pockets. Footsteps behind me mean something. Street corners become calculations. But that night in Vancouver, the sidewalks were calm: couples strolling, a kid riding a scooter, a woman jogging with earbuds in. I realized I wasn't scanning for exits or shadows. My body had gone quiet without asking permission. That calmness should have been comforting. Instead, it unsettled me, like my instincts didn't know how to live without friction. I kept waiting for the tension to return, for some sign that I needed to be on guard. But the city didn't demand it. It simply offered trust and left me wrestling with the part of myself that didn't know what to do with it. The changes didn't arrive dramatically. They settled into me the way snow accumulates on a quiet street, flake by flake, almost invisible, until suddenly everything looks different. One morning on the bus, half awake and staring out at the fogged windows, I stepped off and said thanks to the driver purely out of instinct. No hesitation, no self-consciousness. It wasn't until I was halfway down the sidewalk that it hit me. I had slipped into a rhythm of gratitude I didn't even know I was learning. In the States, thanking a bus driver can feel unusual, even awkward. Here, it felt like acknowledging a shared moment of humanity. Simple, honest, Canada had been softening me from the inside out. I no longer braced myself when someone walked behind me at night. I stopped clutching my keys like a quiet warning. Even crossing streets felt different. Drivers slowed down, not because I demanded space, but because giving space was normal. And that normalcy chipped away at something I didn't realize I carried, the instinct to guard myself at all times. It was as though Canada kept whispering, "You don't have to live like that here." At work, I noticed another shift. In the US, my sense of worth was tied tightly to productivity, to late nights, and always proving I'd earned my place. But in Canada, there was this collective understanding that life outside the office wasn't optional, it was essential. People actually took lunch breaks. Real ones. Entire evenings passed without checking email. Weekends were treated like sacred territory. My American reflex to measure myself by output slowly loosened its grip. And when a coworker gently told me, "You don't get extra points for being tired," something inside me finally exhaled. The real test came when I flew home for a visit. I expected comfort, familiarity, maybe even relief. Instead, everything felt sharper than before. The pace, the noise, the invisible tug to hurry. I caught myself scanning crowds again, rehearsing caution, tightening my shoulders. Even conversations felt louder, more hurried, less forgiving. And in the middle of that familiar chaos, I realized something startling. Canada hadn't changed my personality. It had changed my baseline. My definition of normal had shifted. I found myself missing things I used to overlook: the quiet nod of a passerby, the pause before a car accelerates to let you cross, the way Canadians stack kindness in small, unremarkable gestures until it becomes part of the atmosphere. I missed feeling like the world around me wasn't challenging me to keep proving my place in it. So when I returned to Canada and stepped back into that slow, steady calm, it felt like dipping into warm water after weeks in the cold. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy, just a gentler way of being that invited me to soften without losing myself. Canada didn't fix my problems or erase the parts of me shaped by America, but it made space for a version of myself I didn't know I could be. Someone quieter, someone less guarded, someone who didn't move through life expecting friction at every turn. And maybe that's why Canada breaks Americans' brains, not because it overwhelms you, but because it quietly reveals how much unnecessary weight you've been carrying. It shows you how different everyday life can feel when a society leans toward trust instead of tension, courtesy instead of competition, calm instead of constant urgency. Once you've lived inside that softness, even briefly, you can't unfeel it. You start to wonder, if something this simple can change so much in me, what else might be possible in a world that chooses gentleness over noise?